or welcome to everyone. Today we are talking about the Vikings in terms of Hollywood physical disabilities representation. So, a few questions before we begin. Do you like history, in particular the Viking era? Do you love or have you seen the show, the History Channel's Vikings? And if you have, you probably know the character we're going to be talking about today. Or if you just want to admire this lovely headpiece, then stay tuned. This video is for you. Well, if you are new here, my name is Carla, Disabilities educator and influencer. And if you're returning, thank you so much for watching. So as I mentioned earlier, today we're talking about the Vikings. The primary focus of this video is going to be about the History Channel series, The Vikings. And I'm going to talk a little bit about this show on Netflix. But again, we're going to be talking about that show on the History Channel. And let's get into a little bit of a breakdown on what the video is going to be about. So I'm just going to briefly be going over the character in question with the physical disability. I'm going to be talking about that character's storyline and in general the show's positives, negatives, and the impact on the disabled community. Okay, let's get started. We are talking about Ivar Ragnarsson. So this character was played by Alex Ho Anderson, and the show takes place in the Viking era, and in particular this character was introduced to us in season 2. And a little bit of background on the character: his father is the King of Sweden, Ragnar, and his mother actually ends up becoming his second wife, Aslong, and he is basically born a prince. So we follow this character Ivar through childhood into adulthood and his trials and triumphs, character development, everything in between. And it is such a beautiful thing to witness this character development of this disabled character. So let's go into a little bit more detail. When this child is, or the baby is born, his bones are very crooked. So this character, I'm unsure as to where exactly the term boneless comes from, but it definitely takes hold beginning in his adolescence. And again, his bones were pretty deformed, and he was definitely shown in a lot of pain while he was a child and not able to walk or ambulate. But we do see his some of his physical development, and in particular with how some of the other characters in the story react to him. His parents, it's warm and cold, mostly warm, but it is in particular his father Ragnar definitely is I don't want to give too many spoilers away, but there's definitely a struggle there, and as the namesake of the show is the Vikings, in particular Ragnar is the king, so he travels a lot, and really his family does feel his absence. So I will say that in particular Ivar. But although his father struggles with, I guess, accepting Ivar really becomes a version of his father's mini-me in terms of his desire to travel and to expand the empire. I will say that, and that is such an interesting dynamic to see played out. So we really see Ivar become a military strategist. We do see Ivar developing his strength in his upper body, and he gets to explore his territory, his area, with the help of devices. So I was pleasantly surprised to watch all of this unfold. And again, not trying to give too much away, so because I really want you all to watch and support this series. So yeah, he is a very interesting character. Definitely not the stereotype of what we normally think of that's portrayed in terms of a disabled character. He is definitely multidimensional. Sometimes you see him on screen and you'll want to cry with him or jump through the screen and just give him a big hug. And other times in the series, you'll want to run away from this character and is afraid. He definitely is. He has some rage and some unresolved issues with dealing with his emotions. So I'll say he definitely turned red sometimes. I think that's a pretty on-trend terminology. So he definitely is in touch with the red side of his mental state. So, but again, a breath of fresh air to see such a multidimensional character on screen with a visible physical disability. So let's talk a little bit about the good. Again, it was beautiful to see that layer of that character and his relationship with his immediate family, in trying to develop a love life, to continue his legacy. All of these things unfold, and literally the mantra of this channel, just embracing disabled individuals, living life, and we see this person living a life, an interesting life. So some decisions or expressions of himself I completely empathize with, and some I definitely do not agree with in any way, shape, or form. So, but again, a breath of fresh air to see. Let's talk a little bit about the negatives of the show. And I'll probably say this more than once on this channel, but the actor that plays this character has no direct ties to the disabled community. He mentioned in an interview that I'll definitely post this source below. He mentioned in an interview where he watched videos of disabled people to get in character, I'll say, and to portray certain aspects of being physically disabled, but nothing more than that. No verbal interactions with anyone physically disabled that he stated, or none of the, I'll say, writers or any of those people behind the scenes had any direct contact with anyone physically disabled. So take that as you will, but I will say, I will give kudos to this actor for taking on the role and acknowledging some of the challenges he faced being in character. So more, I'll say negative, is that it really wasn't mentioned too much in the promotion of the actual show that I remember. So that really could be improved upon in terms of Hollywood in general, just to actually put those things in the promotion of the film, that there is that disabled representation. So alright, and I'm going to talk now about the impact to the disabled community. And it's a big one. This person was an actual person, a real life Viking warrior, and actually in the, I'm gonna say, sequel to the Vikings, I think called Vikings Valhalla on Netflix. Ivar the Boneless is mentioned in episode 2. Just mentioned, but it was an homage to those Viking warriors of the past. So he definitely had his kudos. And a part of the good in terms of the series in general is that this character was acknowledged and shown as I mentioned, a strategist and really a version of a warrior himself. So I really appreciate that, and again, was lovely to see on camera. So that impact is there in terms of historical figures with a physical disability that made their mark on the world. And I'd like to kind of switch gears a little bit briefly and mention and talk a little bit further about the actual historical figure, Ivar the Boneless. This actual historical person, he was again a great warrior, and I do want to say that Ivar the Boneless, that actual name is subject to interpretation by historians. It was not actually proven that he was disabled, so there are those that kind of question what that term meant, boneless. Some interpreted that as in terms of his being such a lauded warrior, so skilled in terms of his movements on the battlefield. It was like he was boneless. So I definitely appreciate that how the History Channel's creators and actual writers went the route of showcasing this character as having that physical disability and going and portraying that character. So just wanted to say that. However, I do wish that the series would have been a little bit more historically accurate and actually showed him in battle and leading the warriors that he did. Actually, he was credited to have been a leader of what's called the Berserker warriors. And these warriors were noted for their fury, for their trance-like state on the battlefield that allowed them to channel that rage again and be feared just by their looks, by their facial expressions, and again by their rage and screaming on the battlefield. So I mean, imagine being like this and other angry, rage-like faces on the battlefield. Pretty scary. So that's one method in how that group of warriors were able to be so successful. And I again wish the show would have showcased that more and delved into that, because that really would have fit that disabled character's storyline and mantra. So, alright, we are almost done, but I did want to briefly talk about more impacts to the disabled community. In particular, the current Scandinavia area, including Sweden and Norway, which are considered some of the happiest places on earth. In particular, the most disabled friendly places on earth. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, the government, decision makers have actually committed to making Scandinavia very welcome to everyone, including those with a physical disability. We're talking accessibility in public buildings, in particular tourist sites, and also streets, roadways, hotels, and public transportation. The government has definitely stated that they are very dedicated to making those countries welcome to everyone. So I know I feel welcome, and I definitely have that on my bucket list to visit and be welcome. So my sources will be listed in the description, And a few parting questions. How do you feel about this content? And have you ever heard of Ivar the Boneless? Did you see the History Channel's Vikings? Did you love that character? Did you hate that character? How'd you feel? And lastly, can we think of any other countries or cultures that have a disabled figure that has been a warrior and has been noted for their strategic abilities and beyond? This is Courageous Carla. I appreciate your viewership so much. If you like this video, give me a like and a thumbs up. Comment on some of the questions asked at the beginning and the end of this video, or also just talk about topics you'd like to showcase forward. And please subscribe so you can know when new videos are posted and help me grow this channel. Carpe diem the best way you can, and be safe. Thank you for your viewership again. See you in the next video. Skol.